But what I do want to focus on is how Microsoft Business Intelligence actually works, how you should be deploying business intelligence in a Microsoft platform, the sort of technology that Microsoft offers in business intelligence. So I've been in business intelligence for over 10 years now. I've seen it go from really what is business intelligence in Microsoft to being actually quite a market leader, which is fantastic. It's been an incredible journey for me, going from, unfortunately, having to deal with Access to 10 years later having to deal with Access. So whilst there has been so much change, there's still that Access tool sitting there and all those thousands and thousands of Excel spreadsheets that we want to try and eliminate slowly to bring into the centralized data repository so businesses can actually make decisions as opposed to individuals making decisions based upon what they think they should be making decisions based on. The first thing, why do we do business intelligence? Well, most of you are in this sort of organization that has too much data. And data doesn't equal information. What we have to do with data is we have to provide it with something. And what we generally try and provide it with is this thing called context. So what is the data? Data is just numbers, a sales value, inventory value, anything. It's basically meaningless. In order for a person or an individual to make a decision, we have to provide context. Now that context, if we define it in the terms of a Microsoft type BI, is generally called a dimension. Okay, so that dimension could be a place, a person, a thing, a concept. So it could be applying the sales value by date. What sales have we sold via June, via July, via August, etc., etc. That way we can get trend information. But by itself, having too much data doesn't actually enable us to do anything. All it enables us to do is get confused. So I've made this awesome chart. I love charts. It's got great colors. It's got everything. Look at it. That provides so much context. Well, actually it doesn't. What it does is it's really provided us with a little bit of context. It's given us two little lines, a green and a black line. One of them's curvy. I love the curvy one. And one of them isn't curvy, so you can sort of mix things up. But that's what we'll go over later on, is the sort of thing we shouldn't be doing. But what this is telling me is it's telling me a trend of something, of sales. So this might be really useful in a glossy brochure, but it's not particularly useful. You can't really make decisions. I mean, why is the May value so high? Why did it suddenly drop down in July? These are the sort of questions that people would be asking if they were to view a chart like this. So this chart is kind of like a good starting point, perhaps. It distills the amount of data that we may have across the entire financial year of whatever financial year we're dealing with, but it doesn't actually enable people to make any decisions other than, potentially, I need to look at what we did in June and what we didn't do in July, or what changed with our business between those 2 months. So yes, it provides some context, but it isn't really enough information. And that's where the Microsoft BI stack comes in. The ability for business intelligence to distill that amount of data to provide the detail that's required. Okay, so why should we be doing business intelligence? Well, I read an interesting article about Walmart. They have over 450 terabytes of data. It's an unimaginable amount of data. But I'm sure all of their business users are sitting there in Excel and Access with all of this data, making decisions based upon that. So the reason why we want to be doing BI is to improve productivity, and that's what Craig was saying. It's all about improving productivity, making people not sit there in Excel and Access for days upon days upon days generating the same report as they did last month. Instead, it should be all automated. They should just go to a portal, SharePoint, click on a button, there's their report, there's their dashboard, there's their business intelligence tool that they can slice and dice and do all their great stuff. Ability to change to make better decisions and meet the market. I did a great project once upon a time in my previous life in New Zealand where we did price elasticity for a brewery. So what we were able to see is if they reduce the price on their units by X, they will be able to sell Y. If they increase the price, they will sell less. So by determining through a mathematical calculation what their perfect price was, they were able to determine their perfect profitability for the amount of stock that they were creating. So they were able to use business intelligence to make better decisions based upon their market. They were bringing in data from a huge number of different sources. One of the sources was actually the internet. We were scraping competitors' websites to determine pricing and all this sort of stuff. And they were better to change their price based upon what was happening. So some trends in business intelligence. One of the biggest trends from my perspective is this collaboration. Being able to collaborate in a business intelligence environment is fantastic. So that means not necessarily having a single IT person sitting there, which I once upon a time was, creating report after report after report after report that would never ever get used. So by putting the power back in the hands of the users by having this business intelligence tool being driven by end users, you're able to have then this collaborative environment. People can then share their findings, they can share their reporting solution, they can share their analysis, and they can all make better decisions. One of the questions was hand-holding. Is these tools, was it hard for, that was asked for Craig, is it hard for end users to adopt these solutions? Unfortunately, yes it is. One of the biggest problems in a business intelligence project is unfortunately user adoption, because a lot of these BI tools are complex to use, and a lot of times people don't want to sit there creating their own thing in a complex tool. They want it to be sort of given to them in a user-friendly, nice graphical way. SharePoint, Excel, these are tools that most people know, especially with Excel, and so we're moving towards more intuitive tools, tools that can be used by people without a huge amount of training, and that's really important. Unfortunately, I've seen more projects fail because of user adoption than I've seen succeed because of friendly tools. But as we move forwards with the technology, it's definitely getting easier and easier for end users to use it. Self-service is another big thing. We'll look at one of Microsoft's new self-service tools, which is called Power Pivot. It's an Excel-based tool, all self-service within Excel, creating their own data set, creating their own analysis. Mobility, iPads and iPhones. You can use those, I guess. Eventually there'll be great Android stuff as well, yay, or even Microsoft stuff. So we're moving towards more mobility that isn't just focused on the Apple technology, because Apple isn't necessarily just the only one. But mobility also focuses on laptops. Salespeople on the road still need to be accessing the sales data, and they don't necessarily want to be connected to that data warehouse, so having an offline repository, still being able to make analysis, all about mobility. Okay, technology selection. One of the biggest reasons organizations choose Microsoft, total cost of ownership. Most organizations already have SQL Server sitting there, whether it's because they're running an ERP or enterprise resource planning tool on top of SQL, or a CRM solution on top of SQL, or some custom built or some other vendor provided tool. SQL is ubiquitous. Alongside that, Excel. Most organizations are using Excel. By combining these two products, SQL Server and Excel, you've got the bulk of the Microsoft Business Intelligence Suite. You've got the ability for Excel to connect to SQL. You've got the ability to create reporting services reports, which are your static-based reports or your dynamic reports. You've got the ability to create analysis services cubes or your multi-dimensional analysis. And you've got your ability to extract, transform, and load data from your Oracle systems, or from your other SQL, or from your Access, or from your Excel, or from any other site, to bring it all into a data warehouse. So you get all of the technology straight from these two products. What SharePoint then provides is a fantastic web-based front end where everything can be viewed in a centralized location, whether it is your Excel spreadsheets displayed in SharePoint, or it's your reporting services reports. So we're going to look at the difference between those very soon. Strategy is very important. Craig mentioned that as well. So Craig said that there were two people standing at opposite ends of the table with guns drawn. One was probably in an Oracle camp or some other camp, and one was in the Microsoft camp, and then they had to make the decision why they would go one way or the other way. So having a strategy within your organization as to the technology selection is obviously very, very important. Going along with that is the development. If you've got a whole lot of Oracle developers, then making that transition to Microsoft development and BI is going to take longer than if you had a whole lot of Microsoft developers. So you've got that concern as well. So we're going to quickly jump through this, and we're going to go to this screen here, because the screen sort of brings it all together a little bit nicer than that last bit of text. So Microsoft has broken business intelligence down into 5 sections: scorecarding, performance monitoring, parameterized and operational reports, business reporting, and self-service analysis. So this is a great matrix because it then provides what technology and who creates this business intelligence. So the left-hand side is IT authored, power user authored, business user authored. So we're able to see, based upon the type of reporting or business intelligence an end user would want to be doing, the sort of person that can be doing that. So you can see right at the top is reporting services, Microsoft SQL reporting services. So that is typically done by IT staff or a reporting person. So that's a report that does one of two things: performance monitoring or parameterized reporting. Now, this is a very rigid view. I've created dashboards and scorecards out of reporting services reports. I've created end user analysis reporting out of reporting services. So this is a very traditional view and a static view of what it can do, but they can be extended to do pretty much anything. Much like Microsoft Excel can do your scorecarding. In fact, most organisations are probably doing their dashboarding and scorecarding via Excel. By combining it with SharePoint, it can all be displayed in that centralised business intelligence repository.